What's going on, guys? Mitch here, and today we're going to be talking about a long-term review on the Specialized Aethos. I've got about 6,000 miles on this guy from this past season, and I wanted to go over things that I like, things I don't like, and just an overall impression that I wanted to give on to potential buyers or somebody interested in learning more about the bike. So let's get started. So before we get started, just a reminder, check out the original video that I put up on my initial impressions on the bike, which walks through individual parts kind of piece by piece for a better understanding of the original build and how things have changed since. So where do I start on this bike? Well, like I said, I've got a ton of time on it now, a ton of experience riding it from everything from, your short little jaunts in the 15, 20 mile type range, right up to the, 100 mile, 150 mile rides that I've done. Ton of experience on this thing, and I've really enjoyed my time. It's been nothing but fantastic, and the ride quality that it generates has been nothing short of amazing compared to some of the other bikes I've ridden. So one of the reasons that I've really enjoyed the ride quality of this bike, probably a couple reasons why. One, you can kind of look at some of the, latest trend to go proprietary across your steer tube, your seat post, and whatnot, and the drop chainstays. That kind of gets away with all of that. And in that, we've got a seat stay that goes right up to your top tube. We've got a round seat post, and we've got a round steer tube. These are all things that kind of make it easy to find parts for, as well as inherently give you a very soft ride quality to the bike. I swapped out the standard power saddle for this Ronin mirror. This has been nothing short but fantastic on the bike, and just kind of goes and increases the comfort that the bike brings. Something to be cognizant of when you do decide to change a seat or a saddle away from a standard round rail design is to ensure that your seat post is compatible. The nice thing about the Ethos S-Works post is the fact that this clamping zone is designed for, I believe this one's 6x9 or something like that, or 7x9, rather than 7x7 round. So it's fantastic to be able to change your saddle without having to change the piece on it like I did on the tarmac. The cockpit setup's been awesome. As you can tell, I've got the bar fairly high setup. It is a size 61, and I am 6'3" and a little bit, so I do prefer to have the bars a little bit higher. Remember, it might have the same geometry as a race bike, but it's designed more for your coffee rides, your comfort, your rougher road terrain. Some might even kind of say that it's a Roubeau killer, just because of the ride quality. The angles are a little different, but personally, I think this one may force the Roubeau's hand to kind of redesign in how they alter their layup. The stock carbon handlebars that came on the bike have been nothing short but fantastic, giving me a lot of ride quality and feel that, something like aluminum doesn't. I was expecting it to be a much rougher ride, but personally I've actually felt it very, very supple, very good, not harsh in any way. And then onto the Sram Shifting as well. This force axis stuff is fantastic, no issues whatsoever. Just the setup and the durability have been spot on. The touch points have been really, really nice, comfortable, no issues at all, and it's an extremely intuitive design that the more time you spend on it, I've got the SRAM Rival mechanical on another bike, and now the Rival Axis on another bike as well. It's just so intuitive, the Axis design system, that it's almost tough going back to mechanical, just because it's so simple and you don't think when you're in those high energy outputs, and your brain isn't functioning fully. As we can see here, the drivetrain has had some miles on it. I did change the chain out one time already, just to make room for, I put a SRAM red chain on here just because that's what was available. And, between the two, there's not a whole lot of difference, to be completely honest, other than I think 20 grams or 10 gram difference in weight. But it's continued to shift amazing, and no problems there. One area that I did have a problem was the Ethos rear derailleur hanger. On my first ride, I actually bent it. They took a lot of machining out of it, which makes it a lot lighter, and that's what they're going for, right? It's a climbing bike. But I actually put some power into it and bent the derailleur hanger. So I actually went ahead and put on, I think it's a My 18 road derailleur hanger, and it works fine, no issues. It's literally the same shape, and that seemed to fix the problem. The SRAM Force cranks have been fantastic, although right now I'm showing you the Rival variant, as I am doing a little swapping with the tarmac for the time being. just simply because of the power meter, but the force cranks were awesome. The main thing that I would say the problem with the group set on the Force is the front derailleur right now. You've got to fine tune that thing so perfectly to get good shifting. Otherwise it can be a little finicky, but once it's set up and it's all good, no issues. The proprietary nature of the Axis app allows you to kind of, not have to think about shifting the front derailleur when you don't want to. You can set it to do sequential shifting so that the front derailleur automatically adjusts as you go up and down the range, which is fantastic, and that's how I did it. And no issues otherwise once it's set up. So the Revol Alpinist wheel set has been fantastic. I did go ahead and change the star ratchet and the DT Swiss 350 hub to a 54 tooth engagement rather than the stock 18 tooth engagement. It made the wheel set much louder, as well as just provided me, triple the engagement level, which really helps when you're kind of, climbing or ratcheting up some certain, steep hills or whatnot, or just in the park and what you're trying to do is, tell people you're coming. So super loud, as hopefully that can tell. In terms of ride quality on a 10R frame versus a 12R frame, I can tell you that it's extremely difficult to differentiate between the two. If it's my money I'm spending, which this frame was, personally, I would just go with the 10R. It's extremely lightweight, and we're talking, a quarter-pound difference, which, let's be honest, how much water is in your water bottle is going to outweigh that difference. The ride quality is the same, but the price point is certainly not. Now on the front end of the bike, the fork itself, I definitely notice has a little bit more side-to-side flex compared to the Tarmac SL7. It's lighter, obviously, less aerodynamic, but just in terms of weight reduction, perhaps they went a little far on the fork, just simply because I do notice that in heavy side-to-side movements, you can notice some disc brake rub. I don't want you to confuse disc brake rub with flex in the frame, just simply because I know that my disc brakes are set up well and do not rub in any other circumstance other than when I am flexing the bike side to side. So that's just something, it's not a big deal, but it's something that I have noticed in heavy movements. Speaking of disc brakes, I will say that the top loading pads are extremely appreciated on the SRAM Force hydraulic brake set, simply because, I've had to go through a couple of these. I've done a couple really long 1,000-meter climbs and had to descend back down the other side. So you burn out pads, fairly regularly, not like any other disc brake gives you any problems, but just having a top loading style to it means that, you pull the bolt out, you pull the pads up and replace them without having to remove the wheel. So much appreciated. So because I am running a wireless group set, doesn't mean it, you don't want to be able to have the ability to run a mechanical group set when you want. So it is nice that this cover does come with the bike, and you are able to take this off and route your internal cables as you see fit in the event that you want to run a mechanical group set. So just little things like this that I don't believe the S-Works frame has, that the standard 10R frame does give you. I think it's a fantastic feature. I will say this, just caught my eye when I zoomed in on this here. I will say this type of marking is found all over the frame, and there's some people that get all upset thinking their frame's cracked and whatnot. I am telling you, this is actually quite gorgeous. And when the sun and the light hits it the right way, and right now the bike is under some pretty bright light, these things tend to pop out and they just look fantastic. It's nice and smooth. It's part of the layup and how they're able to achieve such light weight on the frame, and I personally think it looks unique and gorgeous. So I've got a lot of time in on the bike, and I will say that the Specialized Aethos is a fantastic ride. You're not losing a ton on the aerodynamic front. It's a very supple rear end on the bike. The through axles front and back are fantastic and a great upgrade, and I appreciate them. Where this bike really shines is in the comfort level. So because of those through axles, it's stiff side to side, but when it comes to movement up and down, in bumps, in chatter on the road, maybe you're hitting gravel and whatnot, a lot of that gets tuned out of the bike. And it's just more supple and soft than some of the race bikes I've ridden. And I don't want you guys to think that because I'm saying it's supple, soft, even to a degree flexy, those aren't bad qualities to have. You know, I have seen some of the guys on the tour running the Aethos in some of the stages. Let's not confuse that those bikes are not laid up the same way as this. Okay, this is an OEM bike, that is not. So from a power transfer perspective, two very different bikes. But I will say, when you start putting power down on the bike, it goes very, very quickly and without any hesitation. And that's something I really, really like about it. You know, it has that get up and go factor. And I wasn't expecting that, you know, compared to the Tarmac SL7, which has a ton of that. It definitely goes when you want it to, but it remains super soft and supple and has that really unique kind of ride to it. Because the tubing on the chain stays and the seat stays are so thin, it just kind of inherently gives you that road feel. And road feel means that it flexes and that it has suppleness to it. So it takes away the harsh vibrations from riding, which, you know, I actually think is quite a good thing. The front end of the bike is no different. You know, obviously it's not super aerodynamic. It kind of reminds me of like a Specialized SL5. You know, it flexes, it's supple, it's not as harsh or as responsive as, say, the Tarmac, but it gives you kind of that all-day vibe where you can go out, you come home, and you don't feel completely beat up in all your elbows and wrists and joints and shoulders and whatnot, where, you know, 100 PSI in another bike would just constantly be bagging on you. This has an ability to kind of finally take that out. Like I said, to me, there's going to be a change in the Roubeau, and I bet you they go to this Aethos type or Aethos style layup. I just don't see how they don't do it. So who's this bike for? Well, I think it's for someone who's probably not racing, someone that appreciates the suppleness of a very unique ride experience, someone who wants a very light bike. You know, this guy's in the 16-pound range as it sits. You can pull these things right down to the 14-pound range depending on your build kit. It's certainly capable of it. The good thing that I really like as well is it has that threaded bottom bracket, which just makes changing cranks and the amount of maintenance you need to do almost non-existent. I appreciate how it's got, you know, standard, non-proprietary round tubes on it, so that if you want to change your stem or if you want to change your seat post, it gives you the ability to do that. It's a standard through axle front and rear. Your wheel set changes are super easy. You have the ability to fine tune and adjust obviously your chain rings, your power meter, your cassette, your chain, anything you really want to do. It's all super easy to adjust and modify to your liking, which is fantastic. But more than anything, it's for the person that wants simplicity in their ride. They want to eliminate some of the chatter. They want that softer ride. I would kind of equate it to maybe having, you know, 2C more tire size, where it just feels a little bit softer, but really doesn't have to be. It's quite unique. So it's a lightweight climbing bike that has the race geometry that you can kind of really do anything you want with it. If you want to build it up as a purebred race bike, you know, it's got the angles. You can do that. But it's a very soft and supple ride. It has that get up and go factor to it, not to the extent as an SL7, but still very, very good. And overall in a package that is super light and easy to maintain. So I think it's a fantastic bike, and I'm keeping this for next season as well with my Tarmac SL7, just because I don't want to get rid of it. It's one of the coolest and most enjoyable and unique bikes out there in that it's blacked out. You don't see them everywhere. And it's kind of a little bit of a silent assassin. It's pretty cool. So that's all I kind of got for you guys. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'm always willing to help answer them. And like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you later. Thanks.